My name is Abigail. I am 23 years old. I live in Denver, USA. I've been here since I was a child. It's a large city, but my world feels small. I'm a full-time science student and I work weekends at a bookstore. Most days pass quietly, and I like them that way. But that day, everything shifted, like the weather. The rain started suddenly. The sky over Denver turned from soft blue to hard gray in minutes. I was already outside, walking fast toward the local market near 18th Street. My old umbrella had broken last week, so I had no choice. The wind pulled at my hood, and the rain soaked through the shoulders of my jacket. When I reached the market, I saw a row of umbrellas hanging from a rack beside a small table. The seller stood behind it, wearing a poncho and looking bored. One umbrella caught my eye. It was red, bright like a cherry, and looked strong. The handle was wooden, and the edges were sharp and clean. It cost $10. I hesitated. My wallet held exactly 10, but I needed to buy something for lunch too. I touched the umbrella gently. "I can give you 7 for it," I said. The seller looked at me for a moment, then smiled. "Today's your lucky day? Take it for 7. "Really? Sure. It's still raining, and you look like you need it more than I do." That made me laugh. "Thank you," I said, handing him the money. I opened the red umbrella right there. The rain hit the top of it and made a soft, drumming sound. Somehow, I felt safe under it, like I had a shield between me and the world. From the market, I walked to the small bakery on Elm Street. My younger brother loves chocolate pastries, and I wanted to surprise him. I left the umbrella standing in the corner by the door and stepped inside. The warm air and sweet smell made me feel calm again. I chose 3 small cakes, spoke with the assistant, and paid. When I turned back to leave, my umbrella was gone. I looked around. There was only one umbrella near the door now, an old black one with a pattern of yellow ducks. It was short, heavy, and the fabric was slightly torn near the top. I froze. This wasn't mine. "Excuse me," I said to the assistant. "Did someone take a red umbrella?" She shook her head. "Customers come and go. Maybe someone took the wrong one by mistake." I picked up the black umbrella. I didn't want it, but I couldn't leave without any protection from the rain. As I stepped outside, I said to myself, "So much for a lucky day." I walked through the town square, holding the old black umbrella with yellow ducks. It made me feel strange, like I was wearing someone else's coat. Then I heard a voice. "Hey! Excuse me!" I turned. A young man was walking quickly toward me. His hair was wet from the rain, and he had a camera bag across his chest. I didn't recognize him. I walked faster. "Wait, please!" I crossed the square and stepped into a crowd near the bus stop. But the man kept following. I tightened my grip on the umbrella. He finally reached me, a little out of breath. "Marissa," he said, smiling. "No," I said, surprised. "I'm not Marissa." He paused, confused. "You're not?" "I think you've made a mistake. I said firmly. And I don't know you. He looked down, then pointed to the umbrella. But that's her umbrella. I blinked. This? Yes. Black with yellow ducks. It's hers. I was supposed to meet her here. She works with my cousin. He showed me a photo, short dark hair, tall, same style, and that umbrella. I looked at the umbrella in my hand. Oh, I said slowly. Then maybe Marissa took my umbrella. He nodded. That makes sense. We stood there, both a bit wet and awkward. Well, I said, she has my red one. I just bought it. First time I used it. I'm sorry, he said. I guess you lost something today. I shrugged. Maybe I found something else. He looked surprised. That sounded more poetic than I meant it to, I added quickly, half laughing. I like it, he said. I'm Stark, by the way. Third-year law student. I take photos on the side. That's why I had my camera. I'm Abigail, I said. Science major. A small silence passed. The rain continued. People rushed by under umbrellas or jackets. Would you like to get coffee? He asked. I know this was supposed to be Marissa's moment, but I looked at him. He seemed kind. His eyes were curious, not pushy. I know a small cafe, I said. My aunt runs it. 5 minutes from here. He smiled. Perfect. We walked slowly. The black umbrella was too small for both of us, so I tilted it toward him more than myself. I didn't mind. It felt strangely easy. Inside the cafe, the warm light softened everything. We sat near the window, watching the rain and sipping coffee. We talked about school, about Denver, about little things like what time we wake up and what kind of movies we like. He told me he once lost his backpack in Madrid and got it back 2 days later, full of someone else's clothes. I told him I used to paint when I was 12, but stopped because my brother said I wasn't good at it. We laughed. We paused. We drank more coffee. Time moved like warm air, slow, full, unnoticed. Then I looked at my watch and jumped up. Oh no, I said. It's late. I have to go. I have a big exam tomorrow. Stark stood too. Of course. You should go. Thanks for the coffee, I said. Thanks for not being Marissa, he joked. I laughed. Will I see you again? If you want to, he said. Same time next week? Okay. We walked outside. The rain had slowed to a light mist. I held the black duck umbrella again and looked up. That's when I saw her. A tall young woman was walking across the square. She had short dark hair, and in her hand she carried a shiny red umbrella. My red umbrella. She saw me at the same time and stopped. Her eyes went wide. Her face turned red. I could tell she realized the mistake. It's okay, I said, loud enough to cross the space between us. You can keep it." She hesitated, unsure. I smiled and lifted the black umbrella slightly. "This one's lucky too." She nodded. Then she smiled back. I turned and walked away with Stark. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. I didn't study much that night. I sat at my desk, books open in front of me, but my thoughts drifted. They drifted to the smell of coffee, to the soft way Stark said perfect, and to the look in his eyes when he listened, like he actually heard me. It had been a long time since someone had looked at me that way. The umbrella mix-up had turned into something unexpected, something human and warm, and I couldn't push it aside, no matter how hard I tried to return to science formulas and test pages. The next morning, I walked into the exam room with a sharp pencil and a distracted mind. Still, the test didn't go badly. In fact, I finished early, and as I walked out into the quiet hallway, I felt lighter. Not because the exam was over, but because I had something to look forward to. The idea of next week's coffee with Stark stayed in the corner of my thoughts, like a bookmarked page in a good novel. The days passed slowly, but they passed. I went to classes, worked shifts at the bookstore, and watched the sky each evening from my bedroom window. I didn't tell anyone about Stark, not yet. It felt too early, too private, like a story still being written. My roommate, Mia, asked once why I was smiling while washing dishes, and I simply said, "Just thinking." She nodded without pressing further, and I was glad for that. On Friday, I found a small note inside the black umbrella. It had been tucked deep into the fabric near the handle, folded into a neat square. I opened it carefully. The handwriting was quick and a little messy, written in blue pen. "Thanks again for listening yesterday. You were right. I do need to leave. M." I read it twice, then a third time. I didn't know who M was, but I knew that note wasn't meant for me. It must have been written for someone Marissa trusted, someone who'd heard her story and offered advice. I felt like I had stepped into a page of someone else's life. I refolded the note and placed it back inside the umbrella, unsure whether to tell Stark about it or not. The next week, on the same day and nearly the same time, I stood near the cafe entrance, umbrella in hand. Yes, the same black one with yellow ducks. I had come to like it in a strange way. It reminded me not just of the mistake, but of the surprise that followed. Stark arrived exactly on time, wearing a gray jacket and carrying a fresh notebook. He smiled when he saw me, and I realized how familiar that smile was now. How natural. We ordered drinks and returned to our window seat. Outside, the world moved quickly, people crossing the square, cars stopping at lights. But inside the cafe, time seemed to pause again. Stark asked me about my exam, and I told him it went well. He talked about a classmate who couldn't stop quoting legal cases in every conversation. We laughed about that, and I shared how sometimes I spoke to my plants when no one else was home. He didn't laugh at that. He said, "I think they probably listen." I decided to show him the note. I reached into the umbrella's handle and handed it to him without a word. He read it slowly. His face changed, not with shock, but something softer, maybe concern. So, Marissa really did need that umbrella, he said. Or what was inside it, I added. He nodded. We didn't speak for a few seconds. Then he folded the note and gave it back to me. Keep it, he said. You found it. It's part of your story now, too. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Holding someone else's moment, someone else's truth, made me feel responsible, but also connected to her, to Stark, to the strange chain of choices that had brought us all together. I placed the note gently into my bag, next to my planner and a packet of gum. And then we talked again, about books this time. He liked crime thrillers. I liked stories with quiet characters who kept secrets. We both liked reading on rainy days. The third time we met, we stayed for hours. It wasn't planned. We had only said we'd grab coffee, but the cafe turned into a walk through the old part of town, then into a sandwich from a food truck, and finally into sitting on the steps near the art museum. He told me about his sister, who lived in Boston and wrote poetry no one read. I told him about my dad, who used to fix radios in the garage just to have some time alone. There was something easy between us, something that didn't ask for too much, too fast. But it felt real. After that, we didn't make plans anymore. We simply texted when we could. You free today? I'm heading downtown. Want to meet? Rain's coming. I'll bring the lucky umbrella. And somehow, I began to expect him in my week, the way I expected classes and chores. He became part of the rhythm. One evening, we were walking through a quiet neighborhood when the rain started again. He pulled his coat over his head. I laughed and handed him the black umbrella. Still your favorite? He asked. Still unlucky? I smiled. Not unlucky, I said. Unexpected. And maybe those are the best kinds of days. He looked at me then, not just glanced, but really looked. The way he had during our first coffee, but deeper now. Abigail, he said, whatever this is between us, it feels easy and rare. I wasn't sure what to say. My heart beat faster, but not with fear, with recognition. He wasn't asking for answers. He was simply naming something true. I nodded. Yes, it does. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. The moment was full enough. Later that night, I lay in bed, the umbrella leaning quietly by the door. The red one was gone, but it no longer mattered. What I had now couldn't be sold at a market or lost in a bakery. It was something made of moments, of a name mistaken, a stranger's note, and someone who saw me. Weeks passed, and the black umbrella became more than just a story starter. It became a symbol. I carried it with me even when the sky was clear. It leaned against the cafe wall when we sat at our usual window seat. It rested between us on the bench near the bus stop. And one day, Stark looked at it and said, "We should name it." I laughed. "It's an umbrella, not a pet." "That umbrella has brought more people together than half the dating apps in Denver," he said. "It deserves a name." "Fine," I said, pretending to think. "What about Chance?" He smiled. "Perfect. It suits it." We began calling it Chance every time it rained. "Did you bring Chance?" he'd text, or "Chance is feeling generous today." It became a small joke between us, one of those shared things that only make sense inside a story you're both living. But stories are rarely perfect lines. They bend, twist, and sometimes take you down roads you didn't see coming. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. I had just finished class and was walking toward the station when I saw Stark standing near the newsstand. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't even looking at me. He was staring at his phone, his jaw tight. When he noticed me, he quickly put it away. "Hey," I said, walking up to him. "Hey," he answered, quieter than usual. "Something wrong?" He paused, then shook his head. "Not really. Just something with my cousin, Marissa's boss." I hadn't heard that name in weeks. "Marissa?" He sighed. "It's complicated. Apparently she left town last month. She didn't give notice at work. No goodbye. Just disappeared." I remembered the note in the umbrella. "Thanks again for listening. You were right. I do need to leave." I had kept it, folded in the side pocket of my backpack. I thought of giving it back to him now, but something stopped me. Maybe she didn't want to be found. Maybe what she left behind wasn't meant to be carried further. "I hope she's okay," I said softly. "Yeah," he said. "Me too." We walked in silence after that. He walked me to the bookstore, but didn't come in. He hugged me gently and said he had to make a few calls. That night, I didn't sleep well. Not because of Marissa exactly, but because I realized how much I didn't know about Stark's life outside the hours we spent together. He had a cousin I'd never met, friends I didn't know, a family I'd never asked about. We had built something strong, but also small, like a bubble. And now the world outside of it had started to press in. The next few times we met, he was different. Still kind, still present. But there was a quietness in him that hadn't been there before. He talked less. He checked his phone more often. He apologized for things that didn't need apologies, like arriving 2 minutes late or not finishing his coffee. One afternoon, I finally asked, "Is something going on?" He looked up from his cup. "Yeah," he said, "but I don't know how to explain it yet." "You don't have to explain everything," I said. "But I'm here. You know that, right?" He nodded. "I know, and I'm grateful." But he didn't say more, and that silence sat between us like an unopened letter. A week later, I was at the library when I got a message from Stark. "Can we talk?" I replied, "Sure." "Where?" He said, "The park, near the rose garden." When I arrived, he was already there, sitting on a wooden bench under a tree. The black umbrella, Chance, was beside him, though there wasn't a cloud in the sky. He stood when he saw me. "I'm leaving Denver," he said, before I could even sit down. I stared at him. "What?" "My cousin offered me a summer internship in Chicago. It's a great opportunity, and I need to take it." "Summer?" I asked. "Just the summer?" He hesitated. "Maybe longer." The words felt like a cold wind. I sat slowly. "When?" "End of the week." I looked at the umbrella on the ground. Its yellow ducks stared up at me like they knew something I didn't. "You weren't going to tell me?" "I didn't know how," he said. "I didn't want to change what we had." "But this changes everything." "I know." We sat there for a long time. He talked about the internship, about the chance to work with legal researchers, about how it could help him finish law school with a job already waiting. I nodded in the right places, but my heart was somewhere else, running ahead to the moment he'd be gone, to the quiet space he'd leave behind. "What happens now?" I asked. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I want to stay in touch. I want this, us, to continue somehow." "Long distance?" I asked. "If you're okay with that." I wasn't sure if I was, but I didn't say no. Instead, I picked up the umbrella and handed it to him. "Take Chance," I said. He blinked. "But it's yours." "It was never really mine," I said. "It came into my life by accident. It brought me to you. Maybe now it can bring you to something else." He looked down at it, then back at me. "I'll take care of it." "I know." We hugged. It wasn't a dramatic movie hug. It was quiet, real. The kind of hug that says goodbye but doesn't use the word. He left 3 days later. I didn't go to the station. I didn't want that image in my head, him disappearing into a train or a gate. Instead, I stayed home and read a book I knew I wouldn't finish. The first few days without him were strange. The cafe felt too quiet. My phone felt too heavy. I told myself we'd talk soon, and we did, but not the same. Texts, short calls, photos of rainy Chicago streets where Chance now walked under taller buildings. And slowly, time did what it always does. It moved forward. I focused on my final semester. I joined a study group. I started sketching again, small drawings of people in cafes, umbrellas in corners, shoes under benches. It felt good to create again, even in small ways. One afternoon, I got a package in the mail. There was no return address, but I knew the handwriting. Inside was a postcard of the Chicago skyline. On the back, 3 lines were written in blue ink. "Chance says hi. Still lucky. Still thinking of you." I smiled, and for the first time in weeks, I cried. Not from sadness, but from the strange, full feeling of having been seen, known, and remembered. Maybe stories don't always end. Maybe they just pause, change shape, and find new places to live. The umbrella is gone, but the story it started remains. In coffee shops, in quiet parks, in small notes left behind. In the way we sometimes meet exactly who we need, by mistake, in the rain,